So today, Michelle and I are going to talk about the high profile case of P. Diddy. And that, Michelle, while the case was going on, I wanted to
Mm,
do something around it. After the sentencing, I wanted to do something, but we just had an opportunity now to sit with and have
sure.
this conversation about this really this high profile case. I mean, I am disappointed with the verdict, but we know how the
Yes.
legal system works. Sometimes it doesn't favor victims,
Yes.
unfortunately, and especially people who are in positions of power. We
Mm-hmm.
also want to talk about it from the perspective of church and Christian settings, Christian
Mm,
organizations, churches, where when an allegation is made against somebody who is in a position of power, how that
mm,
is managed. So we want to talk about Ronald Kelly from the Seventh Day Adventist Church and how
mhm.
that was dealt with, decades of silence and ignoring. And even though Channel 4 did a documentary earlier this year, we still have not heard anything from the church about the reviews that they're doing
Yeah.
and
Very
what
dismissive.
absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
So, and Robert Morris from Gateway Church and his conviction of only 6 months for the essay of Cindy Clementshire. If you are new to this channel, my name is Joanna Daniel. I'm a trauma-informed counselor and the founder of Wounds to Scars. We work with adult survivors of childhood trauma and women who experience abuse, and we work in Christian settings. I'm here with my colleague, Michelle Peart, who is a domestic abuse advisor, and she runs groups at Wounds to Scars around domestic abuse and neurodiversity, helping parents with children, with neurodiverse children. So let's get into it, Michelle. I mean,
Oh, absolutely.
how upsetting is that he had, I mean, P. Diddy got 4 years, and I'm calling this 4 years to life because he got 4 years, but his victims have a life sentence, really.
Yeah.
um because the he has money and power.
Mm,
um and sometimes when it, I was alarmed, Michelle, when I looked at some of the comment section of when
mm,
he first disclosed and talked about the domestic abuse that she experienced in the
mhm.
relationship. There were many people, many women who were saying awful things about it. And so we see that when
Yeah.
there's a high profile figure who there's a disclosure against a high profile figure,
Mm,
somebody in power, it
mm,
raises powerful questions about how do we hold people accountable
mm,
for the
mm.
things for the things that they do.
Yeah. It's almost as if you can't be accountable if you're high profile. You
Right.
can't be, you're exempt from being accountable if you're if you're resuming a substantial amount of money. And unfortunately, the women that were scolding, is it Cassidy? I can't remember her
Yeah,
name.
Cassie. Yeah.
Cassidy, the women that were scolding her were looking at her profile as opposed to the abuse that she had sustained, as if it was
Mm,
acceptable because this is your lifestyle. This is expected.
mhm.
You're the girlfriend of a rapper, and the behavior that goes with that. Why would you accept anything different? And it's really, really sad. It really devalues the worth of a woman. It's very, very
Yeah.
sad. And in some of the commentaries that I was reviewing on YouTube, apparently the prosecutors were expecting P Diddy to get 11 years.
11.
Yes.
Not even 11 wouldn't still be enough, but 4.
No, but the 4 years would not be such a slap in the face. At least an
Mhm.
extension of those years. But apparently, and also from the commentary that I've watched, the judge stated that he wanted to make an example of P Diddy for the crimes that he had committed, but not so much pertaining to the abuse of Cassidy. It was the other crimes, the racketeering that we reviewed
Yes.
and the sex trafficking. Once again, I believe, devaluing the woman as if the abuse that Cassidy went through wasn't enough. Wasn't that
Mm.
enough for her? That's a lifetime, as you said, Joanna. It's a lifetime of abuse, a lifetime of reviewing, the guilt, the shame, the humiliation,
Yes.
the trauma for her, the trauma for her family, the trauma for the community that she was born in. We don't
Yes.
that's not review. It's not taken into consideration, and the term accountability seems to be void, really,
Yeah.
really void in this
Yeah.
case.
Yeah.
Thank God he had something. I think when I saw the commentary as well, I know that P. Diddy showed us a 11-minute video of his family members and his character, which is okay. You're fighting for your life. We understand that.
But you know what? I see that. I mean, that sits so uncomfortably because I'm thinking his family member must know who he is as a person. They must know, like,
Yeah,
so he has lots of money that he can give them and give them lifestyle, but they
yeah,
must also know his
yeah,
character and the abhorrent things that he
yeah,
do, and you can love somebody and still
yeah,
know that they are like this, and
yeah.
therefore I cannot give a character
Mm,
statement for you because you
mm.
really need help and need to stop. Like,
Yeah,
it,
I was
it
amazed at how in the video the children were in the commentary in the court case. One of the commentators was stating how the children were pleading for his life. He's a good father. Then they showed the videos of the good father, and they said, despite his
oh, wow,
mistakes. And
that's
I
what it
thought,
is.
wow. You drag a
Mm-hmm.
woman across the
Mm-hmm.
floor, you kick her in her stomach, you punch her in her face, you drag her again. Beside the sex trafficking and the racketeering, it's a mistake. That's
Yeah.
really scary. That's really
Yeah.
disheartening. And if that's a mistake, why do women not come forward? I mean, sometimes the argument is, why do people wait so long? I mean, this was going on for 2 years,
Mm,
3 years before it
mm,
came to this part,
mm.
and they wait so long. Well, why do you think we wait so long? We've already been humiliated and abused. That's what we've had to go through. And then when we want to fight for justice, we have to wait another 2 years or something, go through the humiliation in the court system, only to hear that it was a mistake. It's
Yeah.
disgusting. It
For
really is.
some people, it's just not worth it. Some people
No,
won't
no.
won't do it. The loss of community, the loss of
Yeah.
more of your dignity to go through that.
Mm,
It just is for some people it's just not worth it because the justice
yeah.
system is so unjust. Oftentimes
Mm,
when it comes to women, that
mm,
when with that it's just unbelievable
mm,
that a human being could do that to
yeah.
another woman. And I'm his daughter, and I'm going to say he's a good father.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, it's the definition of that for me
Yes.
that I struggle with. Like, how
Mm,
could he treat another woman like that? But he's good to me as a it
yeah.
for me it speaks to who he is. Because
Yes.
if
Yes.
he was a good father, then he would be kind to women. He would
Yes.
not have done the things that he has done.
Absolutely.
I'm sorry that
Yeah.
video and the things that we hear does not point in that direction, because
As if you can compartmental. Yeah.
you can't
Sorry.
compartmentalize your life,
Yeah.
right?
No,
You,
and
you
that's what they do.
yeah,
And
over
and if
here
you bring it
you're
in,
good, but over
yeah.
here you're not. You're
But
the
this
same
is
person.
And if you bring it into that's the secular arena. What is
Yeah,
it like for our sisters in church
it's the
who
same
want
thing.
justice and looking for accountability, but yet still the leaders dismiss it as, just forgive, an element of forgiveness. Again, no accountability. But
Yeah.
through all the Bible, all the stories that we read in the Bible, there was accountability when David did what he did, his
Mm,
behavior to
mm,
Uriah.
mm.
There was accountability. Accountability when Adam and Eve had to remove from the garden. God is a God of justice and mercy, and his accountability is not exempt. So
No,
why
it's
do
not.
we accept it? You
It's
know,
it's and it's we see, as you said, Michelle, in the secular arena, we see how they dealt with him, and it's the same way when we have a celebrity pastor or
yeah,
a celebrity leader, an evangelist,
yes,
or somebody who has money in the church and
yes,
influence, and their family
yes,
is connected, and their
yes.
grandmother raised funds to buy the church building. And we see
Mm,
the same thing happen when there is an allegation made against somebody of that stature in
yes,
Christian settings. It's treated
absolutely.
in the same way, you know.
Yes.
And I wonder, there's this. Let's talk about this blind spot that exists with somebody who is a celebrity, or whether there's a
Mm,
celebrity pastor,
mhm.
an allegation made against, or a celebrity, in the world, they're I wonder why people have blind spots with these people, like don't want to hold them accountable. It's almost like they can't do wrong in
it's
some
it's
people's eyes.
it's like they're mesmerized.
Mm. Yes, yes,
It's like, for some reason we tend to put the profile is more important than
yes.
the incident. The profile, and like you alluded to, what they contribute to the community is more
Mm.
important than the value or degrading the value and the self-worth of another human being.
Of people within the community.
Yes, yes, within the community. Sorry, yes, yes. We're totally devalued over
Yeah.
status, financial status, and as you said, the majority of these leaders, yes, they've brought a lot of money into the community. They're raising the church. They're doing many, many good things, but you can't be wrong and strong. You
No,
can't be both at
no,
the same time.
no.
So yeah,
A
there's
question I was asked recently, but should we, almost like, I'm paraphrasing it, should we deal with it differently if it's a pastor? Aren't we going to cause reproach on the profession?
mm,
And I think many people, especially if it's a pastor, somebody in
mm,
leadership, many people believe that, and so the reputation of the church and the reputation of the profession takes precedent
yes.
over
Yes,
dealing with
absolutely. Yeah,
the real thing that the crime that they've committed,
yeah.
and also over the soul of this pastor or leader, because when you look after the church and the profession and not the victim,
Mm,
and look at the real pattern that
mhm,
they have, then we're exposing more people to harm, and we're not really helping them, because we're
mm,
making them feel like what they're doing is okay and that they
mm.
can keep on doing it. I think love says you're wrong, you're fired, get help,
Yeah,
sex offenders register, and if it's in the case of domestic abuse, you're no longer allowed to do these things. We have
yeah.
to safeguard, but we don't see that happening at all. An
No,
allegation can be made against a pastor, and he gets sent to another church.
yeah. It's there's a preconceived idea of how we review the Bible when it comes to abuse. So when the individual discloses, it goes straight from, there's no accountability, it goes straight from forgiveness. This
Straight.
happened, you should forgive. People
Let's move
make
on.
mistakes. Was there anything else going on in the relationship that might have caused this?
Yes, 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 yes. What did
because
you
because
do?
leaders do not understand the cycle of abuse and the power control will. They do not understand that perpetrators have a consistent pattern of behavior, and that's not going to change unless
Mm,
they're willing to change, unless they
mhm.
submit to God. So we dismiss the pattern of behavior because we don't understand it, and we go
Yeah,
straight from forgiveness to remorse because that's what God requires us to do, as if God doesn't, God doesn't require accountability and justification of this behavior. It's just exempt.
yeah. As you said, God requires accountability, and He requires justice, and
Yeah.
we know that justice is going to be required by Him. And it's really difficult when you're talking to victims, and when you
Mm,
have to help them to see that God
mm,
doesn't uphold and do what the church does. Is
mm,
not like that. It's very difficult because the people who are in leadership, the people who make safeguarding decisions, and the people who make decisions about what happened to the perpetrators are
mhm.
pastors, and
Yes.
they're not oftentimes professionals. They're not professionals in
Yeah.
this area, and so there is this confusion about the Word of God,
Mm,
about God's love, because it's somebody who teaches about God's love
mm,
and His word, that is supposed to be a guardian of His word, and pastoral and caring, that is making decisions, that is
sure,
platforming and ignoring the
sure,
crimes of one of their colleagues. So it there's this confusion that it results from for people looking
sure,
on,
sure.
wanting this pastor, wanting this leader who teaches about God's love
Yes.
to do something that
Yeah.
reflects the God that they know. And so
Yes.
sometimes people just walk away from Christianity because it's like, well, why
Mm,
am I here when you
absolutely.
you
You
represent
know,
God and you do that? So sometimes it's hard to help a woman to understand that that's not God. That's
yeah,
that's not.
yeah.
So the healing, the healing is a spiritual work as well
Mm,
for them to come to understand who God is for themselves
mm.
and know that
And
that's not a reflection of Him.
sure. You know, when Joanna, when the woman, by the time the woman goes to the leader, they are pleading for some form of justice because they've been through such trauma for so long. By the time they come to the leader, and then as you stated, as for the leaders to dismiss it and then say, well, you have to leave, you know, if you're not if you're not comfortable here, you know,
Yeah,
we can't, you know, I've heard so many times where you know, people in safeguarding positions in churches will say, well, we can't dismiss the perpetrator. He has the right to be in the church as well.
yes, yes.
uh, and, I'm
That's
absolutely
crazy to me.
flabbergasted.
Absolutely.
Flabbergasted when I hear that. He has a right to be in the church as well. So how do you balance that right? How do we balance that right? You know, when God is reviewing this, do you think God is stating, well, yes, the perpetrator should stay in there because that's
Mm,
not, as if we immediately protect the perpetrator. We don't know we're doing that, maybe. I'd
yes,
like to think that we're ignorant in that, but that's exactly what's happening. We protect the perpetrator because for some reason we have this mindset that the woman has done something wrong. She is not fulfilling her wife duties or her Christian duties as a woman, and so she is dismissed, and she and her children have to run.
oh yes, yes,
You
yes,
know, it should not be that way. And if any leaders are listening, you know, please be aware that that's what you're doing.
yes,
You're protecting the perpetrator, and the woman has to run and hide for safety. Where in fact, God expects us to show accountability because you are the leader, you are the decision maker, you are the one who states how you show justice and mercy to that individual, so her heart isn't broken twice, and so she doesn't feel that God has also dismissed her, because that's what
yeah,
the leaders are saying. When you say when you protect the perpetrator, you're telling the leader, you're telling the individual that God has dismissed your abuse. It's not important.
yes. It isn't. You know, it's so disheartening, and I think
Mm,
that's why our churches need to be trauma informed and
yeah,
not as a tick box exercise. Like
yeah.
say, see, we've done some trauma informed training until pastors and leaders are held accountable and
Mm,
people have lost their jobs, nothing will be done, nothing will
yeah,
change. And
yeah.
I've said this before, and I think I'm campaigning against this. Like, people need to be fired.
Yes, for
People
sure.
need to be fired. The pastor, the leader, the elder who knew, who did nothing, needs to step down and not be allowed to
Mm,
serve again. He
mm,
clearly
mm,
needs it's a training issue. He clearly needs training. He clearly needs to go understand
mm-hmm,
um abuse and understand the dynamics and understand how
mm.
to respond. He clearly needs that kind of guidance. The pastor needs to be fired. And you know, I know we might get a lot of pushback on this because I have never seen a pastor fired for mishandling a
Yeah,
case of an allegation of abuse. I have never
or
seen,
even suspended,
ever
nothing.
seen,
They just get moved along.
ever
Yeah.
seen that. And there is so much lack of not only accountability, but lack of I'm looking, searching for the word. It's eluded
Co-
me. Transparency.
Transparency. Wow.
People
Powerful
can't talk
stuff.
about
Yeah.
it. You're not
Yeah.
allowed to talk about it. You're not allowed
No.
to say anything. You know
No.
that you're muzzled, and there's no transparency,
No.
lack of accountability, and people get walk. I mean, I wanted to segue into, for example, the Donald Kelly case. The
Mm.
Channel 4 did a documentary on it earlier this year.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so many disappointing ways the church responded to that. You know, I
Mm.
don't know who is advising them, but it was very disappointing from a victim perspective and from working with victims. Very
Yes.
disappointing. There was no response throughout the day. I was looking on their website, nothing was on there until very
Wow.
late into the evening, and I think that was so
Yeah,
callously dealt with.
absolutely.
It speaks to a lack of empathy, and I don't know what's going on behind the scenes in offices,
Mm,
but the church
mm,
knew that this was going to happen. You needed to have everything ready and organized, and as soon as
absolutely.
that
Yeah.
news hit, your stuff should be on the
Yeah.
website, not hours later.
Again, as I've said in times, you bring the character of God in disrepute when you do not
Absolutely.
hold these perpetrators accountable.
Absolutely.
You do not
And we
hold
have
them
not
up.
heard
Yeah,
anything. We have not heard
nothing.
anything from the
No,
SDA church
no.
about what's going on next. Nothing.
It's just
Nothing.
gone silent. I think in individual churches, you know, the only thing that I've heard is make sure that your DBS is up to date.
Oh, do you know
That's it.
what? I
Make
know they
sure
did a
your
lot of
DBS is up to date,
they
and
did a
that's it.
lot of
So
safeguarding training. I know they did a lot of safeguarding training, but for me, because they're not um because they're not reporting people,
yeah,
people are not going on the sex offenders register, so
that's
the
true.
church don't know anyway. And sometimes people
Wow.
come out of that safeguarding training and send me a message to say, Joanna, this happens, what should I do? And I'm like, and I said, I do not work for the church. I don't work for the church, so how
Yeah,
can they come out of a safeguarding training and not know what to do? And
that is really
sometimes,
scary. Yeah.
and here is where, here's another thing that plays into it, Michelle: misogyny, patriarchy,
Mm,
and on all the other
mm,
isms. Because oftentimes we give women safeguarding lead in churches.
mhm, mhm.
Men are the board is full of men. Men are on the leadership team because a lot of
Yeah,
churches don't believe in women leadership.
yeah,
The
yeah.
pastor is male. That woman who is a safeguarding lead has no power,
Absolutely none.
no
Yeah,
authority to do anything, to
yeah,
push anything through. So they do lots of tokenistic things like
yeah.
training is tokenistic if you cannot carry out those policies.
That's right.
It's a
That's
tick
right.
box for when the media comes to say, hey, we all of our people are trained. It's a
Yeah,
tokenistic gesture
yeah.
if the
I like that
people
term.
who has the position cannot
Hmm.
carry out adequately their role.
Yeah,
It's tokenism. So and God knows that too. So
for
you,
sure.
you know this is frustrating because I'm like, what is going on? How come we have not heard anything? How come we've not been told anything? What
Yeah.
else is happening? What's the follow up? How
Mm,
and
mm,
you can share that without sharing anything about the victim. You can share that without
absolutely.
putting yourself in any
Yeah,
legal kind of
yeah,
position. So similar to the Seventh Adventist Church that I'm a part of and love. But if it's wrong, it's wrong.
yes, yes.
Gateway Church knew about Robert Morris. Elders and leaders knew about Robert
Mm,
Morris,
yes, they did. Yes.
and they did nothing. They still let him become overseer of churches. Donald Kelly was still able to travel from one country to the next. And another high profile
Yeah.
person, Dr. Pippin, Samuel Pippin, when the
Mm,
allegation was first made against him,
mm.
he was hired by another conference. And it
Wow.
was when he did it again in another conference
Again.
that was
Yes.
when they fired him. So people
Why
are,
does it have to be something else?
why more people
Why
have
do
to
we
be hurt?
wait? Why do we wait? And because of that, unfortunately, there will be a lot more cases going to court.
Yeah.
As you said, unless unless these leaders are fired or their crimes, these are crimes against the state. These are
Yeah.
not things that you can just dismiss. These are legitimate crimes that P. Diddy has got 4 years. you know um Robert Robert,
Morris had 6 months.
Robert Morris, he's 10 years. Okay, they're not
Months.
serving it. But if the law sees that these are legitimate crimes to go to prison, I don't know why we don't.
I
I don't
know.
understand why we
I
don't.
know, right? I
It's
know.
mind-boggling.
You're in the journey to freedom with us,
Yeah,
being there with me, and you
true.
see the pain in the room.
Oh
And that's
yes,
why I will forever talk about this, because the pain
yes,
in the room, and these
yes.
are not people who experienced it last week and last month, the pain that has been held for years that affects families,
Yes,
not
it's
only their
debilitating.
children, but the
Yes.
community and the people that they love. And there's
Mm,
this pain that is threatening people's mental health and people's
mm,
physical health.
mm,
And I think somehow, sometimes, I don't know how you get to be so callous when you get to leadership, that you
mm,
can
mhm,
avoid
mhm,
seeing the real challenge and struggle,
mm,
and you can
mm,
lack
mm,
empathy. You can lack empathy for victims,
mm,
because I think if you have a heart and a love for victims, you
mm.
would you would do more to protect them.
Sure.
You
And
would do
yeah,
more to protect
yeah.
the
And
victims if you do.
yeah, you alluded to the patriarchal behavior. And I wonder sometimes if leaders are misogynistic.
Oh no, not wonder. I know
You
for
know,
sure
because
that
that,
many are.
especially when it comes to, I mean, you can suppress it, if you're not in a position, you already have that misogynistic behavior, that
Yeah,
disrespect towards women, as if they should be underneath your feet constantly. But by the time you get to leadership, then it's acceptable to expose your misogynistic behavior, and you see that in how you treat victims, and
yeah. We should call it out. We should
adult
call it out in
victims.
churches when we see it.
Yeah, the young women, and and as you said, in the Journey to Freedom program, this debilitating form of trauma doesn't stop with the woman. If she has children and it's unresolved, it goes into it's the perpetuating debilitation that goes to the children. And we are raising a community in the church of very, very broken men, women, and children. That is what we're raising in the church.
The
That
knock-on
is what
effect
we're
is
seeing in the Adventist church. A very broken community. Very
absolutely.
broken community. And how does God use that? He can't.
Mm,
Unless we
mm,
do the healing within ourselves. And that starts from the leadership. That starts from
absolutely.
you being accountable for the behavior, being brave enough, as the song that we used to sing as children, stand like the brave with your face to the
Mm,
floor. Leaders,
mm,
stand up.
mm,
Stand
mm,
up, because unless
mm.
you stand up and start putting sanctions in place, firing individuals, firing perpetrators, going to the court system, using the social services, these are things that God has put in place to protect us. They're to
Absolutely.
protect the vulnerable. And
Absolutely.
unless you stand up and start protecting the vulnerable leaders, you are going to have some serious accountability, not so much to the law, but to God. To
Yes.
God.
Yes, indeed.
How would you
Indeed.
be able to sit and stand when the Lord comes? What kind of accountability are you going to say?
Mm,
Be very careful that Jesus will say, "Depart from me." No, you
mm,
not. Be
mm,
careful. Be
mm.
careful how you treat us.
Indeed. Indeed.
Angels are watching. You
And
know,
and
the
taking
angels
record.
of the young faces of these young women and these boys that are being abused. Be careful. Be very,
Mm,
very careful.
mm.
Consider your ways, so that perpetrators can also receive forgiveness when accountability is being served. When justice has been served, we want perpetrators to be saved just as much as the victim. We don't want anybody to
Absolutely.
be lost. But that's on you, leaders. That's on you. You are the decision makers.
Yes, you are. Yes, you are. And if you are a victim, your family, you've seen your family struggle for
Mm,
years because of
mhm,
what has happened to them. Your
mm,
heart hurts because of the injustice
mm,
that you see in the legal system and in church, and you are struggling. We
mm,
have a PDF that you can have reclaiming uh, something about resetting after abuse. I forgot the title of my own PDF, but the link will be below this video that you can use to access the resources that we have. Come in to join the community that we
mm.
have, where we
Yes.
support survivors, where we support victims, where we support family members. We also, church, if you were watching this and you are one leader that you want to make a difference, you do not agree with what's happening, you want to do something in your congregation with your leadership team,
Mm,
in your conference, we also do training. We've just finished, Michelle and I just finished the Safe Relationship Guide training. Unsa Scars is approved to do CPD training. We've just finished the Safe Relationship Guide training, and we can take it to your church or run it online with your organization. Let's stop the pain. Let's stop the generations of pain. Let's stop the broken hearts. Let's stop the fallout. People no longer look to leadership. There's a loss of respect and trust in leadership because of these cases. If you're watching and you've seen this in your church, what is it that you've seen? How have you seen leadership manage celebrity pastors and leaders when there's an allegation made against them? How have you seen it manage in your conference, your church, your organization? If you've seen them do it well, let us know about that too. We have cases too many that isn't handled well. If you've seen it handled well, let us know in the comment section. And thank you for watching this video.